The Academy Awards have always been Hollywood's most prestigious stage, a night dedicated to celebrating artistic excellence and cinematic achievement. However, on March 27, 2022, the 94th Oscars provided a moment that would permanently overshadow every award given that evening. When comedian Chris Rock took the stage to present the award for Best Documentary Feature, he made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, comparing her to G.I. Jane. Within seconds, her husband, Will Smith, walked onto the global stage and struck Rock across the face. The world watched in stunned silence, initially questioning if it was a scripted stunt, until Smith returned to his seat and shouted, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth." This single physical act sent shockwaves through the industry, instantly polarizing audiences and creating a PR nightmare for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. It wasn't just about a slap. It was about the breakdown of professional decorum in the very temple of Hollywood. The irony was palpable. Moments later, Smith would win the Oscar for Best Actor, delivering a tearful speech about being a vessel for love, while the industry sat in a state of collective trauma and confusion. The fallout was swift. Smith resigned from the Academy and was banned from all Oscar events for 10 years. This event forced a massive reckoning regarding celebrity entitlement, security on stage, and the boundaries of comedy in the modern age. It remains the most controversial and discussed live television moment in the history of global entertainment, a night when the dream factory was shattered by raw, unscripted reality. If the Oscar slap was a sudden explosion, the legal battle between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard was a slow-burning wildfire that consumed the internet for years. What began as a private, messy divorce in 2016 spiraled into the most scrutinized civil trial in history by 2022. The Virginia courtroom became a global stage, broadcast live to millions who parsed every piece of evidence, from recorded arguments to shocking photos of a severed finger and alleged domestic carnage. For 6 weeks, the world wasn't just watching a trial. They were participating in a trial by social media, where TikTok memes and YouTube commentary often carried more weight than the actual legal proceedings. The verdict, which largely favored Depp, was a seismic event for Hollywood. It marked a massive shift in how the industry handles allegations of abuse in the post-#MeToo era, showing that the court of public opinion could be just as powerful and unpredictable as a jury of peers. Depp, who had been dropped from the Pirates of the Caribbean and Fantastic Beasts franchises, claimed the jury gave him his life back, while Heard expressed profound disappointment, fearing the verdict set a setback for women who speak out. The trial's legacy is a complicated one, leaving Hollywood studios cautious and a public deeply divided. It proved that in the age of the live stream, the private lives of celebrities are no longer just gossip. They are a high-stakes, 24/7 spectator sport that can destroy or resurrect a career in the blink of an eye. The fall of Harvey Weinstein was not just a criminal case. It was a seismic shift that dismantled the old power structures of Hollywood almost overnight. In October 2017, bombshell investigations by the New York Times and the New Yorker exposed decades of systemic abuse, harassment, and manipulation by one of the most powerful producers in cinematic history. Weinstein, a man once thanked more often than God in Oscar acceptance speeches, was accused by dozens of women, including A-list stars, of using his professional influence to demand sexual favors. The collapse of his empire was swift. He was fired from his own company, expelled from the Academy, and eventually faced multiple trials that resulted in lengthy prison sentences. This event ignited the hashtag #MeToo movement, transforming a social media hashtag into a global revolution for accountability and transparency. Hollywood was forced to confront its own culture of complicity, where predatory behavior had long been an open secret, protected by non-disclosure agreements and a terrifying wall of silence. The industry saw sweeping changes, from the implementation of intimacy coordinators on sets to a significant rise in female-led productions and leadership roles. Even as legal battles and retrials continue into 2026, the legacy of the Weinstein scandal remains the ultimate turning point for the entertainment world. It proved that no one is untouchable and ushered in a new era where the voices of survivors finally carried more weight than the power of the industry's biggest titans. The sudden passing of Heath Ledger on January 22, 2008, remains one of the most chilling and transformative tragedies in Hollywood history. At just 28 years old, Ledger was found dead in his Manhattan apartment from an accidental overdose of prescription medications, just months before the release of The Dark Knight. The news sent an immediate shockwave through the industry, as Ledger was not only a rising star, but a generational talent who had just completed what many considered the performance of a lifetime as the Joker. The production of his final unfinished film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, was halted, and a profound sense of mourning immediately clouded the promotional campaign for the Batman sequel. This event fundamentally changed how Hollywood views the physical and mental toll of method acting. Rumors swirled that Ledger's deep, dark immersion into the mind of the Joker had contributed to his insomnia and deteriorating health, creating a haunting narrative that blurred the line between the artist and the art. The tragedy turned the release of The Dark Knight into a global vigil, as audiences flocked to theaters to witness a swan song that was both terrifying and brilliant. Ledger's posthumous Oscar win, the first ever for a superhero movie, served as a bittersweet validation of his genius. Decades later, his death is still cited as the moment Hollywood lost its most promising leading man, serving as a permanent reminder of the fragility of fame and the heavy price of creative perfection. The Free Britney movement started as a niche internet conspiracy theory, but eventually exploded into a legal war that exposed the dark underbelly of Hollywood's guardianship laws. For 13 years, global pop icon Britney Spears lived under a restrictive conservatorship controlled largely by her father, Jamie Spears. While the public saw a world-touring superstar releasing hit albums and performing a massive Las Vegas residency, the reality behind the curtain was a harrowing tale of lost autonomy. In 2021, the world stopped when Britney finally broke her silence in a bombshell court testimony, describing her life as traumatizing and abusive, alleging she was forced to work against her will and denied the basic right to marry or have another child. This revelation turned a private family matter into a massive civil rights crusade, forcing a national conversation about disability rights and the exploitation of female stars. The sight of a multi-millionaire woman being unable to control her own bank account or reproductive health sent shockwaves through the legal and entertainment industries. When Judge Brenda Penny finally terminated the conservatorship in November 2021, the victory was celebrated globally as a landmark moment for celebrity sovereignty. The fallout forced several states to reform their guardianship laws and led to a wave of documentaries investigating the media's complicity in Britney's downfall. Even today, the Free Britney saga remains a definitive lesson in the dangers of Hollywood's machine and a testament to the power of a fan-led revolution to change the course of a superstar's life. The collapse of Brangelina was not just a celebrity breakup. It was the implosion of Hollywood's most powerful solar system. For over a decade, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie represented the ultimate pinnacle of global stardom, a duo so influential that they were treated like royalty on every continent. However, the fairy tale ended abruptly in September 2016 following a harrowing incident on a private flight from France to Los Angeles. Allegations emerged of a physical confrontation involving Pitt and their children, leading Jolie to file for divorce just days later. This moment shattered the carefully curated image of the perfect Hollywood family, turning a global obsession into a dark, multi-year legal war over custody and shared business assets like their French winery, Chateau Miraval. The shockwaves from this split redefined how the public consumes celebrity narratives in the digital age. Unlike the cleaner divorces of the past, the Brangelina fallout was a gritty, leaked document saga that played out in the headlines for nearly a decade. It signaled the end of the super couple era, proving that even the most beautiful and powerful figures were subject to the same messy human breaking points as everyone else. The legal battles continued well into 2026, serving as a permanent fixture in the news cycle and a cautionary tale about the pressures of living a life entirely in the spotlight. For fans, it was the day the music died for Hollywood's last great romance, leaving behind a legacy of fractured families and a permanent shift in how we view the perfect lives of the elite. The tragic shooting on the set of the Western film Rust on October 21st, 2021, remains one of the most haunting and preventable disasters in modern Hollywood history. During a rehearsal at the Bonanza Creek Ranch in New Mexico, a prop gun held by lead actor and producer Alec Baldwin discharged a live round, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and wounding director Joel Souza. The incident sent an immediate shockwave through the global film community, instantly halting production and launching a massive criminal investigation. It wasn't just a freak accident. It was a catastrophic failure of safety protocols that exposed the dangerous corners often cut in independent, low-budget filmmaking. This event forced a total reckoning regarding the use of real firearms on movie sets. In the wake of the tragedy, industry leaders and actors called for a permanent ban on functional weapons, advocating for the use of airsoft guns and CGI muzzle flashes instead. The legal fallout was equally intense, as Baldwin and the film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, faced involuntary manslaughter charges. The trial of Gutierrez-Reed and the subsequent legal maneuvers by Baldwin's team dominated the headlines for years, highlighting the complex web of responsibility between producers, crew members, and actors. Even as of 2026, the Rust tragedy serves as a somber reminder that the magic of cinema should never come at the cost of a human life, leading to the most significant overhaul of on-set safety regulations in over 30 years. Robert Downey Jr.'s career is the gold standard for Hollywood's most incredible comeback, a journey from a prison cell to the center of a billion-dollar universe. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Downey was more famous for his mugshots than his movies. Following a series of high-profile arrests involving drug possession and trespassing, he famously told a judge that using drugs was like having a loaded gun in my mouth and my finger on the trigger. Hollywood essentially blacklisted him, viewing him as an uninsurable liability who had squandered one of the greatest acting talents of his generation. His downward spiral was so public and so severe that many industry insiders believed it was only a matter of time before he became another tragic headline. The shockwave came not from his fall, but from his improbable resurrection. Against all odds, and with the persistent backing of director Jon Favreau, Marvel took a massive gamble by casting him as Tony Stark in 2008's Iron Man. The world watched in awe as the former bad boy of Hollywood transformed his real-life struggles with ego and redemption into the DNA of a cinematic icon. His success didn't just save his career, it birthed the Marvel Cinematic Universe and fundamentally changed how studios view difficult actors with a past. Downey's journey from a correctional facility to becoming the highest-paid actor in the world remains a definitive story of hope in an industry that rarely gives second chances. It proved that in Hollywood, your greatest failure can become the foundation for your greatest triumph. In May 2005, the world's biggest movie star, Tom Cruise, walked onto the set of The Oprah Winfrey Show and delivered a performance that no scriptwriter could have ever imagined. Ostensibly there to promote War of the Worlds, Cruise instead spent much of the interview jumping on Oprah's famous yellow couch, pumping his fists, and frantically professing his love for his new girlfriend, Katie Holmes. This was the birth of the couch-jumping incident, a viral moment that occurred just as YouTube was being founded, making it one of the first celebrity memes to spread like wildfire across the burgeoning high-speed internet. The shockwave from this interview was psychological. For decades, Cruise had been the untouchable, perfectly polished leading man. But in those few minutes, the veneer shattered. The public saw a side of him that felt erratic and uncomfortably intense, triggering a massive wave of late-night parodies and a permanent shift in how he was perceived. This incident, combined with his heated pharmaceutical debate with Matt Lauer shortly after, caused his Q rating to plummet and led Paramount Pictures to briefly sever their 14-year relationship with him. It served as a landmark case study in the dangers of oversharing in the media and the power of a single unscripted moment to damage a multi-billion-dollar brand. Even though Cruise eventually reclaimed his status as the savior of cinema through death-defying stunts, the shadow of the yellow couch remains a definitive chapter in the history of celebrity PR disasters. The most chilling event to ever shake the foundation of Hollywood occurred on the night of August 8, 1969, at 150 Cielo Drive. The brutal murder of actress Sharon Tate and 4 others by the Manson family was a tragedy that effectively ended the summer of love and the innocent optimism of the 1960s. Tate was not just a rising star and the wife of director Roman Polanski. She was the face of a new, glamorous generation of Hollywood elite. When news broke that a cult had infiltrated a high-profile home and committed such senseless, ritualistic violence, a wave of pure terror paralyzed the city. Suddenly, the hills of Los Angeles, once seen as a protected paradise of the rich and famous, felt vulnerable and haunted. The shockwave from this event fundamentally changed the way celebrities live. Before the Tate murders, stars walked freely among the public, often leaving their front doors unlocked. After that night, Hollywood became a fortress. The private security industry exploded, fences went up, and the era of the guarded celebrity began. It also changed the darker side of the media, as the trial of Charles Manson became a sensationalized circus that blurred the lines between true crime and entertainment. Decades later, the tragedy continues to fascinate and haunt the industry, serving as a permanent reminder that the bright lights of fame can sometimes cast the darkest shadows. The loss of Sharon Tate remains the ultimate loss of innocence for Hollywood, a moment when the Dream Factory realized that real-life monsters were much scarier than anything on the silver screen.